Welcome to Power Up Your Practice. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, a law firm owner and law practice management consultant, author, podcaster, and adjunct professor. Each week, I'm so excited to invite other guests on to be able to learn from the inspiring minds and share practical tips so that we can all work smarter, serve our clients even better, and grow our firm. But after all, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So let's power up together and continue to create the law firm and the life you deserve. Welcome back. My name is Ruby Powers, your host of Power Up Your Practice. And today I have a great guest, Dennis DM Meador. He is the founder of the Legal Podcast Network. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about the Legal Podcast Network. I see it was launched in early 2024, and you help attorneys build authority and grow their practices through podcasting. Why did you start this, and tell us a little bit more about the benefit of podcasting, as we're in a podcast right now.
Right, exactly.
Very meta.
Is there any point in us being here right now, or are we just speaking into the void? No, I have worked in marketing for 30 years. I started working in digital primarily with attorneys, first with attorneys and primarily through my career in 2003. So we're coming on 23 years now, I guess. And the previous business relationship I had like kind of like a sign-on partnership with an established SEO firm that did like authoritative positioning through website content, things like that. And every once or twice a year, we would kind of put together like a special little package. And one time we took and we used that we did like a done for them podcast. And after that, like it seemed like for the next 3 years, every time I talked to an attorney that had been interested in the past and knew who we were, they were like, well, are you guys doing anything with podcasts anymore? Can you help me with the podcast? So I went to my partner and I was like, hey, man, like, I think if we build a podcast network, we're going to do very well. And he was just like, no, I think we need to focus on this other thing. I was like, okay. We had a 5-year contract. 5 years came up. I'd helped him grow from 78 clients to almost over 400, from less than $1 million to $5 million a year in revenue. But he had a consultant in his ear saying, you're paying this guy all this money and he's built a sales system on autopilot. You don't need him anymore. Okay, fine. So December of 23, 5 months away from my wedding, I get the email. I'm not renewing the contract, but I had drawn up the podcast concept like a year before, because I was like, because I'm like a business geek, like I'll just make businesses up in my head and profit margins. I can sit in a restaurant and be like, yeah, that guy's making that much and like, kind of just, I don't know. It's just some fun for me. And so I have a notebook where I keep a lot of my business ideas. And I was like, I'm going to do that podcast thing. I had a podcast in Austin, Texas. It had grown. I had a lot of great relationships out of it. And I did like 60 episodes in 3 months. I brought in like a 3-camera crew, audio crew. I spent like $150,000 on this thing, roughly $3,000 an episode, 2,500, something like that. So I learned a lot about podcasting, obviously, during that time, how to promote it, how to build it, differentiate it, all of that. So I took that knowledge, I took my digital marketing knowledge, I took my working with attorney knowledge, and I was just like, the first problem I knew was how long it takes, the time it takes to have a podcast. If you self-publish, it takes roughly 6 to 10 hours. If you do a lot of it yourself, 6 to 10 hours per episode is what I've learned. So like if you do your own editing, your own marketing, your own, all the stuff that goes into it, takes roughly 6 to 10 hours. And so I was like, giving attorneys a podcast, like I knew what it could do, how it could build relationships and authority. I launched and I bootstrapped it. Was myself, my VA I had had for 5 years, and another guy who had worked for me in the other company that he just handled my clients. And we started May 1st of 24. Here we are 2 years later. We're serving about 225 shows, 350 episodes or so per month. And we have about 65 people on the team. So it's taken off. And I think the thing that's made it take off so much is, well, 2 parts. One is I literally built it to help attorneys get their clients. And I've got testimony after testimony after testimonial of attorneys that are like, I actually get clients off this thing. Like, I bought it because I thought it'd be cool to have a podcast. I didn't believe the guy when he said I could actually get clients, but I'm getting clients who are calling in saying, hey, I saw your podcast. I saw you here. I saw that. I want to work with you. So that was, kind of the first thing, is just seeing the growth. And then beyond that, like, the podcast itself not only builds authority and clients, and that's why we've seen it grow, but it's super simple. Like, my clients, once they're onboarded, which we really just need to define their clients, get plugged into their social media, build out channels if we need to, all of that. Once they're onboarded, we need 30 minutes per episode. So you could have 1 2-hour session and have a weekly episode. You could have 1 2-hour session every 4 months and have a monthly episode. And we're literally doing everything else. We're editing, production. We're doing the content. We prep the questions based on their ideal clients. We provide a host. We distribute it to 25 plus outlets, including now our own streaming networks that are going live on like Amazon and all of that. So we have a streaming networks. Then we do marketing of the show. And now we're also launching like kind of a guest matching service for people in this kind of space where they're like, I'm an attorney. This is what I cover. I want to be on shows, or vice versa. I'm a show and I need this kind of attorney.
Oh yeah. We get targeted for a lot of guests on the show, and then there's a lot of benefit to like podcasts, like guest swapping, I guess you could say.
Yes.
When you said we get them a host, so they don't host it themselves, or
the vast majority of our clients, they're the ones getting the questions, and that's the biggest difference. So what we do is we come in and we say, okay, John, you are a divorce lawyer in Atlanta. And we sit down and say, tell us about your ideal client. Tell us about this. Tell us about that. And then we build these like segments. And so like today's session is, what you should know when going through a divorce in Georgia. This wouldn't be the title, but the main subject, what you should know when you're going through a divorce in Georgia, if you want to keep like the second home, the boat, the kind of ancillary things. And so we'll have like 7 to 10 questions. Our hosts, who are professional, like radio hosts, talk show hosts, podcast hosts for, 10 plus years, they actually ask the attorneys the questions. So the attorney is the expert. And the reason we do that is who is the positioned expert right now in our dynamic? You're the person who's empowering my positioning to your audience. And while there is value in you providing that, ultimately, for me, the goal is that they see me as an expert and want to work with me. So I thought, if I just have an attorney asking other people a bunch of questions, how does that make people want to hire them? And so I just flipped it around. And that's what the vast majority do now. And they just sit down, they just, kind of go through. And I like it. And here's why I did it that way. Attorneys have told me my entire career, if I could just get them across from my desk, I'm going to convert them at about 80%. Every attorney I've ever talked to, that's kind of been their opinion. If I can get them to sit across from me, they are going to be my client. The problem is now over 80% of people solely use the internet to find their attorney. They're not sitting across from your desk. So I wanted to emulate the strengths of attorneys by creating a scenario very similar to their strongest place, which is sitting there answering questions specific about my specific problems and what I'm going through and the things I need to know.
What do you think is the biggest hesitation for attorneys about starting out a podcast?
Well, there's 2 right now. One is, isn't that a saturated thing? And it's like, well, first of all, I mean, everybody has a website. You're not going to have one. If it benefits you and can help you grow your practice, who cares if another guy in town has one or doesn't have one? That's the first thing we hear. It's inundated. The second one is, I don't have time, which is what we really fought and, have taken care of. Like, I don't have time for it. I'd say the third one is, I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. That's why we do the kind of sitting across the desk, emulating style versus, having now we do have some that want to be a little bit more professionally set up. I have, professional light here. I have a 80-inch television screen behind me, so I can just switch my background. And I heard you talking about Shure mics. I'm using the Shure MV7 mic, and I'm in a little 9x9 room here on San Pedro, Belize, a little island in Belize. And I just run my whole business just sitting in this little room. So
nice.
The big thing is
hopefully you leave the room every once in a while and go enjoy Belize.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Evenings, weekends. Yeah. So this Sunday, my dad's in town. I'll tell you this little story so you can realize I'm not a humanoid. I'm an actual person. My dad's in town. And, in years past, we would go snorkeling, and he's getting a little like he's 73-ish and has had health issues for a while. And so I was like, Dad, instead of going snorkeling, let's go, we can rent a private boat for a couple $100, not much, and just go to the backside and find like a little cove and just like have a little private cove. So it's him, myself, my wife, and we just had this little white, sandy, warm Caribbean, like in the sun all day, like cove where no one else was. And so, yeah, you got to enjoy stuff like that. But I mean, everybody everywhere has stuff in their town that they could do that's cool that they just don't get out and do. So
yeah, you just have to be purposeful about that. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna just go out to that cove right now. That sounds like fun. But what back to the podcast. What does the law firm podcast look like when it's actually working? Like, what would you say is a sign of success?
Honestly, people calling them and coming in and saying, hey, I saw you either in socials, because we take care of their social media posting as well, or I've been watching or listening to your podcast and I want to work with you. That's what we go for. Not, because right now, when people catch you off Google and you're one of 25, the first question is usually how much. So when the attorneys tell me, the question is no longer how much, it is, hey, I've been listening to you, I've been watching you, I'm ready to work with you. What's it going to cost me? And not like in the sense of like, I'm comparing you to these other people, but just like, you're already my attorney. I just need to kind of confirm you are who you say you are and give you the money that, as long as it's,
yeah,
within
you just have
reason.
to finish the logistics like that, the authority and positioning. I was actually thinking about the parasocial relationship, and that's what I've noticed. Like when I'm in media or even like building up the podcast, is that people they feel as if they already know you and they've already built that connection. And like you were saying, like it's just a matter of signing and paying for them to move forward. But they've and that's one of the biggest benefits of the podcasting is that the building the authority, like you're saying, like with the attorney being asked those questions, they can show off their authority or their knowledge. So is there any other things you put into mind? Like you're really purposeful about the questions that are asked. But like, what is there anything else from like creating the appearance of the authority and positioning, or do you give them any coaching or guiding on like how to speak or communicate, or where to look, or how to sound, or are there any other tips?
Well, that's why we have a producer and a host with them. So, the producer, kind of pops in and out like your producer did, any questions, here's how it works. And, we do this thing in my company called weekly wins. And so I have all my directors, because they have different numbers of people on their team, send me, because I don't know what's going on in like the trenches all the time, right? I can't. And so I'll have them send me weekly wins. And about a month ago, the weekly win from the production team was they had a lady who had shot 3 different first episodes. And every single time she came in and said, no, I can't do this. We can't do this. We can't do this. And so and they came to me, they're like, should we just let her out of her contract? Should we just like let her go and like tell her this isn't for you? And I'm like, well, if she's willing to keep trying and learning. And so every time they would give her some constructive criticism and help her. And that last time she came and she shot like 4 episodes in a row. She finally got it. It clicked for her. She was comfortable. So that was the weekly win from the production department was, hey, there was this one attorney. Now, again, this is this has happened once in our history, but there was this one attorney who just kept like coming to the end of their first podcast shoot and then would just like kind of be like, I just messed up too much. Oh, we just can't do this, sort of like felt a little flabbergasted. But my team had invested in her and helped her build the confidence to whereby, a couple of times in, she shot straight through. Now, that we try to do the across the desk approach so that it's just like a Zoom call. It's just like anything else. So they don't necessarily feel like it's a podcast. And so that is one of the things that, most of my attorneys are just sitting at their desk. They are talking, into a webcam. They've got maybe microphone like this sitting on the desk in front of them. And they're just like, yeah, in case like this. And so we try to emulate something that they're already comfortable with so that they can be better at it much quicker versus like somebody who comes to us and is like, I want to set up a studio on it. And I'm like, okay, well, what's your background? Well, I've never been on camera before, but if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. Now I'll usually say, slow your roll, take a breath. Let's just get you a few episodes. And if you get 4 or 8 or 10 or whatever episodes in and you feel like this is for you, then let's buy all that equipment. And it's not because I don't want them to go all in on it. I want them to get comfortable because like I'm standing up, it's a totally different sort of like feeling to do the podcast this way than to just kind of sit at your desk and have a conversation like Zoom. And so that's what most people do. That's how most people podcast. But when you go to that next level, you want to have better production value, better lighting, better microphone, just a better aesthetic overall.
What I found is that it can be intimidating at the beginning because it's a little bit of a different medium than what you might be used to with, but it is very similar to like doing webinars and speaking and Zoom and everything. But it can feel a little intimidating with like the format. But I see what you're saying. Like if you create the environment the attorney is used to, like in a consultation setting. And then the other thing I think is it's all about consistency. And it is fun to go buy the shiny object little toys. Like I didn't buy my Shure until later when Michael DJ Heisenberg, he was the one who told me I had to buy it. But anyway,
you bought the eye, right? You got the eye one.
I got the eye. I got it. I can see the eye somewhere. I don't know. It's here. But I was mentioning this at the ABA Tech Show on our podcast panel. Like I can see where you can get like a sound snob. Like I remember doing some media for radio and they're like, we're going to record the room, and I was like, okay. And then I understood why he needed to have the sound of the room so he could use it later when he was editing. But anyway, the sound is so important. Now it's really important with the mic and the headset or sound absorption, or like you said, you're in like a smaller room to be able to make it have better audio. And that's another thing we were mentioning with our guests on the podcast panel for ABA Tech Show is just like when we have guests on, it's really important that their tech is good so that we can have really good audio. But
so what we do, and this is something new that we're launching, we have like, I think it's 4 packages. So they sign on how many episodes they want to do each month. Sign, it's a 4-month contract. And the next thing we're getting ready to do is then our show coordinators, sales guys, take them onto this next page and then say, okay, if you have equipment already, great. If not, here's 4 levels of equipment. There's like cell phone with a pod, with a microphone that plugs in using your cell phone. This is going to cost you like $100. And then there's like what we call across the desk, a better mic, a better thing. And then we call building a studio with light kits and things like that. And then we have a company that we've contracted with where he builds remotely home podcast studios. So he will they'll buy it right as they sign up, they'll buy their package of equipment, and then they'll set up a time to meet with this guy. And then he'll call and do like a Zoom call, and say, okay, put the light there. Okay, no, move it over. Okay, great. Now your microphone. Okay. Yeah. And so he literally walks them through setting up. Now it's an additional cost. Like they pay him directly. They don't pay us. They're paying Amazon and they're paying him. But we wanted to make it like, again, just super simple. So some people could be like, I'll just start with the second level. I'll spend $300 and $100 to have them help me. That's great. But then when they're ready, we could just send them the link. Like I've had some of my clients. I had one client, a PI guy in Miami, and he's like, I was talking to him and I was like, how's things? Oh, really? This is going great. I'm getting clients and blah, blah, blah. He said, I thought about buying the building next door and turning that into a podcast studio. Do you think I should do that? And I was like, hold up. Like, I'm glad you're this much in, but let's get like, like, first of all, let's remove the stack of green folders behind you. Let's like set up a nicer thing with some lighting and a better microphone. And let's let you use that for a little while. And if you're willing to then buy a building to have your own podcast studio, great. But let's move towards that. Let's not jump to it. So
I've never heard of that. I mean,
I've
seen people buy all the gear, but I've never heard of someone wanting to buy a building to build. Like, and I've seen people. That's that's dedication. That's good.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about building the marketing ecosystem. What are the components of that, and how you can have the podcast fit in your existing ecosystem and sort of just maximize and amplify with the podcast?
So I've always worked with 1 to 10 small firms, and typically small firms don't have marketing programs. They have a marketing product they're currently buying, typically. And so I tried to build this in a way where it could be standalone, but if it's added into everything else, obviously that'll supercharge it. So what we do is when a client comes on, we find out about, so first of all, we do exclusivity. We do one client type or one, practice area type per market. So I have one Miami personal injury lawyer. That's it. And in doing the exclusivity, what we then do is they come in, they sit down, they do their show. We add the skins. We do the editing, the production, have my whole production team, get rid of the ums, the uhs, make it pretty. And that's kind of the core piece, the podcast itself. We use the audio. We put it on about 25 different audio outlets. Video, we build them a YouTube channel, and we have a YouTube channel that we then cross-post it onto from their YouTube channel to our YouTube channel. And then, so that's distribution. Now we need to get into marketing because that's where I started, production and distribution. The problem was production, distribution without marketing, not much was happening. And my clients were like, I have a podcast, but nothing's going on with it. I'm not getting any movement. And we used to give them 3 videos. Well, now for every show, we make 30 pieces of content, 10 videos, 10 audiograms, and 10 static pieces. We then take that 30 pieces of content, and there are 10 major social media outlets, all the way from, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter X. We do Pinterest. We actually have clients that get clients off of Pinterest still. And so we do across all 10 outlets. Every day we take and we make sure that none of the content is repeated. And if you do one show a month, you've got 30 pieces of content on 10 outlets, basically 300 posts a month. You do 2 shows, you've got 2 posts a day. You do 4 shows, you have 3 posts a day. So now we're covering every social outlet in every way possible. Then we also take the transcript and we turn it into site content. The site content can either be a blog, it can be their podcast with a breakdown of the podcast, or it could be turned into FAQ content. We put that on their website, 2 to 3 pages per episode. So now we've got social, we've got web content, and that spiders into, and I heard you guys talking about it with Michael, LLMs and, all the different GPT and Claude and all the different things like that, as well as Google, which is feeding Gemini. Mm-hmm. Then I was like, okay, year 1, we launched the product. Then at the end of year 1, we launched 2.0, which is where we 10x the content. Then at the beginning of this year, we launched Eco, which ecosystem now we have guesting. So we help them, we do white glove for guesting and having guests. Then we also have 2 channels that we've built that you can download like Netflix on Amazon Fire, on Roku, all of those streaming places. One of them is LPN Life, and that is for lawyers because we have about 25 shows from like Delisi Friday, who's like she's known for like referral marketing. This one lady, Estelle Winslet, she does like how women can dress in the courtroom to be successful. We've got a couple of like mental health and holistic health for attorneys type shows. So like basically you're an attorney, like you're running your own practice. We have like all these shows. We have an actual channel just for lawyers that we've launched. The second one is LPN Answers. That is from all the attorneys, and you can go, I'm in the state of Georgia and I want to learn about divorce. We'll show you the 5 podcasts that we have, and you can look at the podcasts and see who you want to watch or, on the channel. So we're just trying to continually build and put more into this ecosystem. So you speak it once and it goes, it's a podcast, it's site content, it's social media, you've got your own streaming show, and you're building expertise by going on other shows. So they all feed into each other, and that's what an ecosystem is. I did a post once, you have these posts that you think are brilliant, and then you put them out there and they like go to crickets, right? So the post was, is your marketing a trampoline park or is it a terrarium? Because most small law firms, they just jump from one thing to the next. And because they're moving, they feel like they're accomplishing something in their marketing. But they're in a trampoline park. They're just going from this trampoline to that one, back to this
trampoline parks are fun, but if they're not accomplishing your goals, then I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And that's kind of analogy. Yeah. I mean, we can say, well, you're losing weight. I get it. Not all analogy. There's no such thing as a perfect analogy. But but the terrarium, right? You start, you put a little bit of like moss in there and then some water and then maybe some frogs and now some plants. And eventually you get this big, huge encased glass where it all just feeds off of each other and it doesn't need anything from the outside. So that's what we are trying to provide for our clients, where either A, we're doing it all for them, or B, they're already doing, TV and a ton of money on SEO, and we're just supercharging it because, like, all I do is podcasting and LinkedIn posting, things like that. If you Google me, like the first 3 pages is just all the podcasts, all the link. It's all there, all my social media, all of that. And so this helps our attorneys in their marketplace, because what do the, search engines, LLMs, what are they looking for? They're trying to provide local, relevant, trustworthy content, answers, right? So we are building ecosystems, because we do like on the back, like in YouTube Studio, we put like, this is for this county, this is for this is for that. So we're actually going into the back end and building all of that.
That's awesome. What you just said is a bit of exhausting, because I know how much work it takes to make that happen. And but I love the whole like recycling, reusing, maximizing all the content. And with AI, it's so much more possible for like from transcript into a blog or an article, or clipping a longer form into short form, or all of the above. Like that's awesome. Yep. And if you have the content, you have the strategy and the know-how, you can make all of that happen. And it's a lot easier than it was without the AI tools. Now it's easier with the AI tools than it was without them, a couple of years ago. So,
I mean, that's why I said we started at 3 pieces and we went to 30. We 10x'd within a year. Now we still go AI then eyes. And that's the thing about AI. You have to have a human on the other side of it. Mm-hmm. People that just churn out content straight from AI, they're going to make themselves look silly, because it's going to it's going to misspell and blah, 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 have 8 fingers on one hand, whatever else. But when you take AI and then you put eyes behind it, so 85% of the time it's right, fix the 15%, then you could pump out really, really, really great content in a fraction of the time it just took a few years ago. But it's still, I mean, you could say human generated, because it's humans came up with the content on the front end, humans answered it, humans recorded it, we put it through AI, then we filtered it on the back end and we QA'd it, and now we're disseminating it in all these places.
So AI plus eyes sounds more fun than human in the loop. but I was on a
Yeah.
panel earlier today, and that was my tip. Let's move over to how to monetize your podcast, because some people get sponsors. You're like, can this pay for itself? I'm putting all this time in, or maybe I'm hiring a company to help me support, or maybe I'm hiring an assistant and helping do it internally or something like that. What would you tell attorneys on how they could possibly monetize their podcast?
So I talk about 5 ways to monetize. The first one is traditional, what we would like, the CPM play. I get tons of views, I get tons of listens, and so therefore, whatever drops me a check. The easiest one is YouTube. The CPM on YouTube is anywhere from 1,000. That's something per million, cost per million, what they pay you for every million views. So the CPM on YouTube is 1 to 6,000, depending on the demographics of the people that are watching and listening. So let's say you get a video and it hits 1 million views, which why on earth you have 5 reasons not to call your attorney the moment you get pulled over, go to 1 million views. I don't know why that would be, but let's just pretend it did. You're going to get a check for $3,000-$4,000. That's great, but I guess that pays the production costs at their base, but why are you really doing this? For me, for my clients, it's to get clients. So the second one is sponsorships. I'll give you $500 an episode. Again, that's offsetting costs. But the other thing, building referrals. So you can have people on, build a relationship. Now you reciprocate in referrals to one another. But where I really focus is speaking to the client themselves, from my attorneys to their clients. And the monetization comes through retained clients, period. I'm not trying to make money getting $500 from, legal.ai, or I just made that up. It's probably a thing, but who knows? Free advertising for you. But, from whatever to get that little check, there's much more value in reaching 50 local people this, over 2-month period, that 30 of them say, they're watching and listening to this content for a reason. Because I always tell people, these podcasts are not for mass consumption. They are for certain people at certain times in certain places with a certain problem. That is what each and every podcast session is for. It is to reach that person with that pain and that confusion and that frustration. And you're the one assuaging fears and providing clarity. So the ROI for my clients typically, and again, we do the other kinds like this, the podcast where it's back and forth, but the majority of my clients, the host asks them, they answer, we cut it up, and we put it everywhere. They see the ROI because they actually get clients that sign up. Because I look at this as a marketer. I didn't look at this as a podcaster. I don't care about sponsorship money. I don't care about CPM money. I don't want my clients to care about sponsorship and CPM money. What I want them to do is go, last month, 7 clients were actively listening and watching our podcast before they came in. That's why they hired us. That's the return on investment. And then lastly, on your podcast, the 5th one is actually having your clients on and pitching them. That one I don't suggest doing anymore. A lot of people don't appreciate it. About a year ago, you could kind of get away from it. I just had it happen to me the other day from a life coach. They wanted me on their podcast, and I was like, okay. And then at the end, they pitched me their product and send me this assessment test to see if I would be good for their program. And I was just like, so this wasn't really about my expertise. This was about you selling me your product. So I don't really suggest that 5th monetization strategy. There are people that have used it. I think it's already been used enough. I've seen posts on LinkedIn where people are like, be careful when you look at a podcast, go look and make sure that it's actually a podcast and not just some salesperson trying to pitch you on their product, because that's happening now.
Well, I think this sort of, okay, so the clicks or getting money off of YouTube or something, I was just looking at the earn on YouTube for my power strategy group. You have to have 500 subscribers.
Used to be 1,000.
Okay, well that's good.
Now it's 500. That's nice.
500.
Okay.
500 subscribers, at least 3 video uploads in the last 9 days. That's easy. and one of the following, either 3,000 valid public watch hours or 3 million, I guess, public short views in the last 90 days. That's okay. And then, yeah. And then if you do that, you can make some money. I mean, is there a way to make money other than, like, if you don't hit those, like, other ways?
I mean, not CPM. I mean, that's the whole
Yeah.
strategy. And
Yeah.
see, the problem is when you play the CPM game, all you're
Mhm.
trying to do is chase eyeballs, and chasing eyeballs doesn't necessarily bring people into your practice. And so if I'm
Right.
chasing eyeballs, like, I could just like, hi, I'm the goofy lawyer, and, just act like a fool, and maybe people will spread it around and I can get a little check. But I'm much better served if my average client value is $7,500. Let's say I'm a estate planning lawyer and I have a decent estate plan and trust package or whatever.
Mhm.
My average client is $7,500. What I'm looking for is, 10 clients a month. Now the hour, half hour, whatever time I spent, if I can get 5, 7, 10, 3, whatever the number is, clients per month, that's where the ROI is coming from.
Do they normally say, I heard heard your podcast, or do you have
Yes.
to track it or not? Okay.
That's not what my attorneys tell me. Like, literally, they literally start off the conversation by, I came across your podcast, I watched a few episodes, and I really want to work with you.
How
So
long do you it's good.
I was gonna say, it's kind of like back in when websites just started. Like, you could just basically be like, see, you have a website, and now they came in and said, I saw you on a website. Podcasting is still like that. There's no
Mhm.
like way to directly, you don't want to be like, mention this podcast for 25% off your first month of fees or
Mhm.
something. So,
Yeah.
but yes, they volunteer that. It's just like like you said, when people come up to you, that pseudo relationship, that's what we're creating. We're just using it to the benefit of professionals.
Mhm.
So it's not, you're funny, it's, you know what you're talking about, and I want to work with you.
I thought I was funny. I'm just kidding. How long does it take for that ROI to start kicking in? Like, how many months or years do you think it takes for someone, for your experience, for having like their
Yeah.
legal podcast, to start seeing the calls
So
coming in for it?
the arc that we've seen in the last 2 years with thousands and thousands of, episodes and hundreds of clients is, during what we tell people is this. So it's going to take about 6 weeks for your first episode to go out. You got to onboard, you got to get set up, you got to tech check, you got to shoot, we got to edit, you got to make sure you
Mhm.
like some things, go back. So it's about 6 weeks for that first episode to come out.
Mhm.
During the first 4 months, especially towards the end of it, and we do 4-month cycles, you'll typically start to get people, say, like friends, family, people that were already following you in your ecosystem, say, hey, I see you launched a podcast. You might get lucky. And we do have, like, I have a few clients who say the day my podcast came out, I got 2 clients. Like, so obviously outlier incident, no promises being made here, folks. I'm just telling you, like, sometimes, and that probably meant these were warm people in his ecosystem. And when he published, they listened and said, yeah, I need to hire him. So that was kind of that case. But typically during the first 4 months, you're going to get people that you already know kind of mentioning it. It isn't until about the 6, 7, 8 month mark, with the amount of content, the social, the SEO clout, the podcast, the YouTube, the shorts, and everything else, around that 6, 7, 8 month mark is when things start to happen. You start to get like your first, like, what I call out of your ecosystem case, a case that you
Mm.
wouldn't have probably gotten otherwise. During the first 4 months, it's likely you probably would have got that case with or without us. We just happened to be the thing that pulled them in. And I'm honest about that. But once you get into that second cycle, around the
Mhm.
6 month, 7, 8 month, you'll start to see people coming in, and, once or twice a month, people, yeah, I was listening to I saw your podcast. And then that third one, I have not had any client that was with me for a year that has left, except for one client. He started in 24. He's one of my very first clients before he was even pre-launch. He did it the whole year. The beginning of 25, he said, it worked really great. I just want to try something different. I said, okay. End of 26, he comes back. We'd had a almost 40% price increase because we had added so much to it. Still very affordable, We
Mm-hmm.
charge 800 for one episode a month. It's April of 2026. So if you're listening to this in 10 years, do not quote this price back to me. But one episode a month is $800. 4 episodes a month is $2,000 for what we do. We do not charge a ton of money. Why? Because I wanted to focus on the smaller firms.
Mm-hmm.
So around that 1 year mark, he leaves 25. He leaves at the beginning of 26. He comes back and he goes, I need to start my podcast again. And we're like, oh, well, what happened? Like, you're coming back. And he's like, I got more clients this last year from my podcast the year before than all the rest of my marketing. So I want to keep building back onto that and working with you guys again. So he came back in to the system and started working with us again. And so, yeah, I mean, I know if they make it 8 or 12 months, they really don't leave. It's the first 4 months of really just them actually sitting down and doing the podcast itself. Once they do the podcast, they see it, they start to get results. We don't, the retention is like sick. But during the first 4 months, it's getting them trained to actually sit down and give us an hour or two at a time every 1 to 4 months.
And really, that's where it comes down to, that consistency. And I like what you're saying. I see that for when I do my like immigration or estate planning videos for my firm. Like I have to break down, block off time to do my shorts and my webinars and all of that. And once I build that in, it becomes a habit. But if it starts disappearing from my calendar and my daily routine, then it's like disappears, and I can tell the calls start reducing, and it has an impact as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that we're moving on to the fun fact question part of the
All right,
episode
let's
today.
go.
Let's do it. So what is your favorite board game or card game?
Monopoly.
Which type of Monopoly and why?
Any Monopoly. I don't know, because I was the oldest of 6 kids growing up. I always won. I could always get my younger brothers and sisters to sell me like the property I needed for pennies on the dollar. And so like I always won.
Yeah.
I always won Monopoly. So I don't play a lot of games. Like I've never been a gamer, video but that's one I've played enough times to say that, yeah, I enjoy it.
Got it. What's your superpower?
Taking complex things and making them simple.
It's definitely needed in this world. What is a habit that contributes to your success?
Every morning, I go to a coffee shop about a block and a half away. I sit sideways. I get the sunshine on my face. I see the Caribbean Sea. There's a breeze coming off. I have my coffee. I think through my day. I think through what I've got coming up. I might shoot off a couple of things or do a couple of voice notes to my team. And I just relax. I talk to tourists and make like recommendations to restaurants on the island, where to go, where not to go. I just like do that little thing. And then I talk to the girls who all work. It's all women who work at this coffee shop. And we kind of joke around and tease. And it just starts my day just as kind of like in a calm place, but productive. And calm and productive is like the best place I feel like I can be.
That sounds like a fun habit. I feel like I was almost there with the sun and the wind and like the Caribbean. I need to get back. I haven't done Belize. I've done Roatan for the scuba, like Jamaica and Dominican Republic and stuff. But I need to. It's the Blue Lagoon or Blue
The
Hole.
Blue Hole.
Blue Hole.
That's not too far from where we are. My wife's gone down 130 feet or whatever that you go into it and do all that. She's the daredevil. I am like, I don't go 30 feet above the ground or 30 feet below the ground. That's my rule in life, if I can help it.
Yeah. And don't they have like sharks there too in that? I don't know. That off of the Bahamas. Yeah. Well, I'll look into it.
We have some sharks, but like the main sharks here are nurse sharks. Next week I have a teammate and we're doing snorkeling Hole Chan, which is where like it's like a ravine or whatever, and it's got all kinds of beautiful turtles and different rays and colorful fish and all of that. And then we go over to the spot and they chum for nurse sharks, and then you go out and you kind of swim and they're all going around you because they say they're like the puppy dogs of the sea. But little known fact, the number one shark injury is
Huh.
from a nurse shark. Nurse
Really?
sharks have no teeth, but nurse sharks have jaws that are strong enough to crack open conch shells so they can eat. So
Oh,
very wise tourists say, "Oh, look, this sweet little shark. I'm going to put my
puppy
arm in
dog.
there."
Yeah.
And they put their arm in, and the thing just goes crack and breaks their
Why
arm.
would
And
you
it's like,
do that? That's just ridiculous.
well,
Yeah.
it's
Okay. So they have Caribbean reef sharks and nurse sharks at the 30 to 40 meters. So around where your wife would dive, 100 to 130 feet. And hammerheads, black tip sharks, and bull sharks are also occasionally spotted. Sounds like I need to go. Okay.
yes.
What would be a book or a podcast you would recommend to listeners?
So a book that I read that it's based on Stoicism, and no, I'm not a Stow bro, but I do appreciate a lot of the philosophies. Actually, cognitive behavioral therapy, the most like revered form of therapy, is based off of Stoicism. And there's an author, Ryan Holiday, who writes. There's a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way." Stillness is the key. He basically takes Stoic principles and then kind of like expands and makes them very digestible where you really get it and you're not just like, because when you read Marcus Aurelius, it's almost like reading the book of Proverbs. It's like there's a line and it says one thing, and that one line you could spend days on. So he takes
Yeah,
that one
unpacking
line.
that one sentence.
Exactly. So he takes that in Stoicism and kind of breaks it down and gives historical examples and stories that kind of exemplify these things. And the one, "The Obstacle Is the Way," helped me through a tremendous time. I think it's just a great book, but really any of his books that he does, I think he's got 5 or 6 along that line.
Yeah, the Daily Stoic, I think, is the one that's pretty popular
Hmm.
as well. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom on, why the importance of having a podcast if you have a law firm, and positioning yourself as an authority figure, and just like how you can truly maximize the whole marketing ecosystem, because there's so much to it and it does take time. So don't get overwhelmed when you're listening to this. But then there are ways to monetize a podcast, which can come in all different shapes and sizes. But for a law firm, for your purpose, it would mostly just be by getting clients out of it and building yourself as an expert in your field. So thank you, DM, for joining us today. How can people stay in touch and find you and keep the conversation going?
Couple different ways. So LinkedIn's kind of like my playground. That's my digital language right now. I'm posting there every day, interacting with people. I have other people on my team that are there as well. But if somebody like inbox is like, "Hey, I listened to you on this podcast," whatever, I always read it all and jump in when it's appropriate. So LinkedIn, and then thelegalpodcastnetwork.com if you're a lawyer. We did just launch the Authority Podcast Network, and that's just simply because we had so many people that were signing up and not lawyers. We created another network
Hmm.
for those people. And then I have my own website, dmondemand.expert, and that shows where me as a podcast guest. So it's got links to all of my guest spots, podcast host. I have 2 podcasts. One I do that is a superhero animated AI Saturday morning cartoon inspired podcast. I've had Tony Albrecht. I've had Guy, who I heard you mention in another podcast.
Hmm.
He's about to be on. And what we do, we dropped 4 episodes at once, a mini series. We just did Journey Through the Land of LinkedIn. And so one expert came on and I kind of tell a narrative and we fight monsters. And then they talk about, like, one is the bio, one is the content itself. We talk about like newsletters and kind of like what some people think are forgotten wastelands. And so we try to make it like fun. And then if you watch it on YouTube, it's actually animated like in the style of, like I said, Saturday morning cartoons with like B-roll and stuff like that. And then I have another podcast called The Authority System that we're doing ours different. Every other month, we're going to drop 4 episodes for each. So
Hmm.
technically I will have a podcast come out every week, but each 4 to 5 part series will be its own little arc. So it's like the concept of limited series on Netflix, but it's
Hmm.
podcasts and we drop them all at once. So if you like the subject and you feel like you're learning, you can listen to all 4 or 5 at once.
Oh, that's great. Uh, well, there's also the benefit of like not dropping them all at once. So then you have to like wait, but then like otherwise I guess you could binge. Like, I don't know. I have to keep track of the shows I watch, the ones I can binge and the ones I can't. Anyway, not that I have a lot of time for that, but
No worries.
Well, thank you for sharing all your guidance and on how this works. And I'd say for me, I'm not podcasting for clients for the law firm, so it's a little bit of a unique situation, but
Right.
it is about getting out there. But I also just truly enjoy the connection and the people I meet and the things I learn and feeling a little bit closer with my guests, and also just all of that. And I think once we've gotten the systems in place, it doesn't feel so overwhelming, and it has become a habit because we usually record 1 or 2 hours a week on Tuesdays. And so we actually realize we have so many extra episodes like in storage, like on the hopper or however you call it. Like we're gonna actually probably record only once a week for the once a week podcast. But yeah, I'm really glad I did it, and I guess it's about 2.5 years old now. And but I think once you start doing it, then you can find ways to just keep maximizing that ecosystem and maybe adding on potentially. But for me, I think it's been a joy and a great addition to my professional career. And probably I think I'm spending more time on my power strategy group and then actually on the law firm in promoting my expertise as a lawyer. But if I were to put as much effort in that, then I'd probably be really good for my law firm. But anyway.
Well, you talked about, and you just had Michael Eisenberg. Is that right? His last name?
DJ Eisenberg. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But anyway, so I did a podcast with him, and it was like a panel. We also had like the guy who does law pods, and there was other people that had podcasts, and we kind of talked about it. And one of the attorneys brought up something that was a really great point. He said, what we have to understand that's happening in the industry right now, because podcasting is exploding, is there are people who are going to be podcasters who are lawyers, and then there are going to be lawyers who have a podcast. And the difference is the podcaster does it for they enjoy it. It's a hobby. There's, if they get clients, great. If they don't, but the lawyer who podcasts generally is going to be one who says, hey, I'm treating this like PPC. I'm treating this like SEO. I want to see an ROI. I want this to benefit me. And that's two different categories of podcast styles, podcast, content, and podcasting people. So, there's people who are going to do this because they love it. Great. And, we have a lot of people like you who were just like, I grew to this point. I didn't want to keep doing it. I saw everything that you're doing. I can just show up and talk. This works for me. And then we also have the majority of our clients. We provide the host, like I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good that you provide a variety of options for regardless of where they're at in terms of their time and their comfort level and expertise. Well, DM, thanks so much for being on, and I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Your Practice. I'm Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We love your reviews, so if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us one and share this podcast with someone else so that they can know what you've been learning on our show. And make sure to check out the Power Up Your Practice book. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. It's packed with 25 chapters of strategies to grow and streamline your firm. And we also have the free Power Hub community on School to keep the conversation going in between the episodes. So make sure to keep powering up your practice, and we'll see you next time.